So in the last video, we were watching Allie Beth Stuckey talking about the entire Candace Owens situation as it relates to her and the biblical aspect of everything. And in this video, I wanted to cover another episode that Allie put up where she's actually interviewing Frank Turek. That was kind of like Charlie Kirk's right-hand man and was there at the time of the shooting. And a lot of rumors were swirling around because of Candace Owens that were implicating this guy and saying that he was giving hand signals or acting weird or doing this. And so people started sending this guy a bunch of death threats, and it just really got out of hand. So he made a really good point here after Allie asked him a question about the entire situation. And I want to kind of highlight that and just basically discuss exactly what he's saying in this particular situation. So before we get into this, just a quick reminder to like this video and to subscribe to the channel for more videos like this. So let's go ahead and get into it.
Well, you brought up Candace Owens. You said that you talked about it on your podcast. Could you tell us, if people haven't watched what you have already said, what is your take? You know, her proponents say, well, she's the only one seeking truth. She's the only one really investigating. She's trying to figure this out. And then, of course, her detractors say, well, this sounds like a conspiracy theory, and she's airing out pre-existing grievances in the name of investigation, and she could be hurting a lot of people in the process. So how should we think about this?
Let me ask you this, Allie. Suppose I were to say that I think Candace Owens is the real killer. And I think the reason she's the real killer is she was upset that Charlie stopped inviting her to the big events. And what she decided to do was have him taken out. So Turning Point USA would not only pay for what they did to her, they would look at her as maybe someone who could succeed Charlie. And then she would be the president. And she's insinuating all sorts of other possibilities in order to prevent her from being found out as the true killer. You would go, Frank, you are crazy. And yeah, I would be crazy to suggest that. It's a possibility, though, isn't it? I mean, it's a possibility, Allie. I mean, anything's possible, but do I have evidence for it? I have zero evidence for it. And I would never want anybody to send Candace Owens death threats because I'm pushing a possibility without evidence. But you know what? That's what Candace Owens has done to others. My friend Mikey McCoy is getting death threats. I'm getting emails saying, you never know what could happen to you.
Wow.
You ought to repent. It's one thing to ask questions. It's another thing to present or to insinuate that someone is guilty because you've put a web of possibilities together without any evidence that says that what you're saying is true. And I know there are a lot of unanswered questions about this particular murder, and there should be. Now, why should there be? I had my friend Jay Warner Wallace, the cold case homicide detective, on the show about 5 weeks ago, a couple weeks after the murder. And Jim has been a part of several homicide investigations and prosecutions. And here's his main point. The prosecution is never going to tell the public anything they don't need to tell them. The prosecution's goal is to convict the real killer, not quell conspiracy theories. Why? Well, let's put it this way, Allie. If the FBI is right now investigating a second shooter with regard to the Charlie Kirk murder, they're not going to tell the public. Why? Because if they tell the public and then someone comes forward and says, oh, I saw the second shooter, they don't really know if that guy really saw the second shooter or that guy's just trying to make a name for himself and trying to get attention for himself.
Right.
They have to keep their cards close to the vest. Also, they don't want to taint the jury pool. Also, they don't want to tip off the defense. Prosecutions rarely reveal what they have. They will, though, check into security, I should say, conspiracy theories privately. How do I know? Because they checked into me. I don't know if you saw the stupid guy in the white hat. He's signaling the killer for Charlie Kirk. I didn't even know about that for the first 30 hours. When I got back to Phoenix after the murder, This was, this was Thursday afternoon. It happened Wednesday about noon. When I finally got back to Phoenix after J.D. Vance came and picked up Charlie on Air Force Two, my wife picked me up and said, "Do you know that you're the subject of a conspiracy theory?" I said, "What? What are you talking about?" And she told me the whole story about the guy in the white hat.
Yeah.
No, Allie, I'm still getting people online saying,
and
you're
not
a part
from
of this.
Candace. That particular one wasn't from Candace, just from other people. And this is just
True.
an example, though, of when people imply things or say things about you, it has a real consequence on your life.
Yes. And it's so stupid. Like, why would anybody looking through a scope from 200 yards need somebody 25 feet from Charlie in a white hat to tell the shooter, "Hey, Charlie's over there. He's the one with the microphone under the tent"? He couldn't even see me anyway if he's looking through his scope.
Right.
It makes no sense at all, yet people still believe this.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, it kind of goes on from there. I advise if you want to see the full interview, go to Allie Beth Stuckey's channel, check out the whole thing. But basically what I wanted to kind of get into is exactly what he was talking about and kind of go over my thoughts on the entire situation. So first of all, the real thing that I want to get into is the fact that there is a difference between asking questions and then making these implications and implying that certain people were involved in something that very well weren't involved in it. The reality is that I see a lot of people online are saying she's just asking questions. She's not asking questions. If you're just asking questions, then that will come in the form of a question. What I'm hearing a lot of is, isn't this weird? And this is weird. And that person did that. That's weird. And why would you do that? And if you were in this situation, wouldn't you do this, and this instead of what this person did? And then this and that instead of that. That's what's really happening right now. So it seems like, oh, it's just asking questions. But when you put these things together and you're saying, well, this flight left at that time, and that must mean that this person's connected to this, and you're trying to piece these pieces of a puzzle together, it turns into you basically saying, hey, these people are probably responsible. When you say, I'm going to declare war on all of you, talking about TPUSA and the administration and just everything, that is meaning that you were saying that there's some type of guilt that exists there. When you're saying that something's just not right, that means that you believe that there's something that needs to be figured out. And people are going to try and do that to the best of their ability. The other thing we need to take into consideration is, first of all, I love his example of this, because him saying this is exactly what my thought process has been throughout all of this. That if someone made the exact same claims towards Candace and said that she's doing this to divert attention away from her as a result of everything, then you would not believe me. You would say that that's absolutely crazy. How could I possibly be saying that? But yet here we are, where a lot of people are saying, you know what, I believe what she's saying. But the reality is that the burden of proof and evidence is on the accuser. If there's one thing you take from this video, remember that. Say we were going to run with this whole story about, say, Candace Owens being the real killer or something. I can't make that claim and then say that it's up to you to prove me wrong. It's up to me to prove myself correct. I have to have something to show it. But that's what's happening. You can't put the burden of proof on the party that is being accused, because you have no evidence showing that they actually did it at all. Or else, this is no different than when we looked at what the left-wing people did with Me Too, when it was just believe all women, believe all women. Don't look for the evidence. We're not going to wait till they're proven guilty in court. No, we're not going to do any of that. We're just going to believe women at all times. There's no difference with this, where we're just saying, believe Candace, no matter what actually is happening. Just go with whatever she's saying and just believe that whatever it is true. You know, I had a thought about this as well, because I was recently driving down the road and I saw this guy that was being pulled over. He had just been pulled over. He was out of the car. The police pulled him out. They were searching his car. They were searching him. He had like a shirt off and everything. So, you know, I was thinking to myself that everybody passes by this car and probably looking, trying to figure out what's going on. And to me, I feel like this is very similar to this Candace situation, because it would be very much like us going to that scene and going up to the police officers and saying, hey, stop what you're doing. Tell me why you're doing this. What reason of suspicion do you guys have that you need to search this guy's car and search him for whatever it is that you're looking for? Like, well, you have to tell me why you're doing it. And the police are going to look at you like you're crazy. And honestly, you'll be lucky if you don't get arrested for basically interfering with a crime scene and what they're doing. But The reality is that it is not the police officer's responsibility to tell you what is going on in a situation like that. You have no right to know what is happening. It does not pertain to you. It is not your business. But yet we're doing similar things here when the FBI is investigating stuff. Believe it or not, it's not the most interesting thing in the world. It isn't. And I feel like we all want the insider scoop on everything and with all the ins and outs of what's happening. Definitely, it is interesting. I'm not saying that it's not interesting, but it's also not something that we are privy to. There's a such thing as privileged information. And oftentimes in these particular situations, we're not privileged to understand what is happening in all of this. The reality is that a man died. That's the only thing that's going through my mind, is that a man of God died. And there was a revival happening. People were united in Christ, and that this entire conspiracy thing has been co-opted by conspiracies, taking away from what God is doing, or trying to take away from what God is doing. And I find that to be absolutely disgusting. And that's really the issue I have with all of this. There was even a picture that I'll probably show here as well, where you can see how much Candace has profited off of Charlie Kirk's death. Whether you want to admit that, well, she's just asking questions, or she's saying this, or she's saying that, however you want to word it, the reality is that she has profited more than anyone else, monetarily, by the way, from this. These videos some of these videos, the beginning was we're getting 9 million views. Guys, the usual payout for a per million views on YouTube is around, $5,000 to $7,000. Not to mention the well over $150,000 she's made just by doing super chats, not to mention the amount of people that she signed up for book club, not mentioning the amount of that people are paying for advertisement on each one of these shows, because of course she's been running advertisements. Nobody else is able to explain that, but it's just crazy that this is going on. No one has benefited from Charlie Kirk's death more than Candace Owens. So regardless of her trying to make this some noble effort, the reality is that this is 100% monetarily beneficial for her. If it were me in this situation, I would not be running ads. I would not have had monetization on. I would not be doing any of that, because I would not want it to look as if I was profiting off of the death of a quote unquote friend. But that's exactly what is happening here. And no one's able to justify exactly why that's the case. No one's even caring about it. It's just, she's asking questions, guys. No big deal. Mind you, this guy's getting death threats. It's absolutely ridiculous. So let me know what you guys think down in the comments below as well. Remember, once again, to like this video and to subscribe to the channel. And I will catch you guys on the next one.